Also on Maui Monday with the president was Governor Josh Green. He joins us this morning in studio. Good morning, Governor. Thanks for being here.
You bet.
I know we heard the president talk. He addressed the public twice while he was here yesterday. Is there anything that, maybe we didn't hear that he didn't share with the public that he spoke to you about that you can share with us now?
So many things. The president did an extraordinary job helping to wrap his arms around the people of Lahaina. He met with hundreds of people, and that was kind of in this closed door mourning ceremony with people that had lost their homes, lost loved ones. He expressed incredible gratitude to the firefighters. He feels and he says things like God created man, and then he learned more and created firefighters and gave them extra courage. So he's extraordinary in that way. I will tell you, he also shared with me, we've been speaking at great length frequently, that when he lost his child and his wife when he was 29, Senator Dan Inouye helped lift him up when he became a senator, and he feels a strong sense that he's meant to try to help us do everything possible in Hawaii. Part of that seems to be resonating from that early life experience he had when he had that tragic loss. So it was extraordinary to see how connected he was to people here, and I'm grateful for it.
I know just a few minutes before this interview right here, we were talking about how it's important to be on the ground on Maui and see things firsthand. So, some people weren't happy with the president being here, but I'm sure it was a very important thing for him to do as he looks to try and support the state moving forward.
Yes, he had to be here to see it firsthand because he is authorizing at my recommendation pretty much everything we ask for, and that means ultimately billions of dollars of support, whether it's to rebuild Lahaina in the way, it will be in the way that the people of Lahaina want, but rebuild it with what infrastructure and how do you do it and in what time frame. So he had to see it in person. There is, in society in general, there's a lot of anger and rage out there, just in the world. We saw some of that as we drove in. Some people were, not welcoming, and some people were political about it. Some people were expressing, I think, their sense that Hawaii is still, in many ways, a sovereign place. All those feelings are welling up in people right now, though. That feeling and that anger has to be, of course, translated into compassion and kindness. That's my role. It's also what the president was trying to do. So many things are in the air. Really, what I want people to know is we do have to do this together. There is going to be a lot of decisions made in the coming, there are a lot of decisions going to be made in the coming weeks. They have to be inclusive, but also they have to be expedited. For example, we've about 30 days of housing support pretty much under any circumstance. I can use hotels and Airbnbs for everyone, and that will continue for many months for those who lost their houses. But I also have to deal with the question of transitional housing for people who maybe are COFA migrants or who have other challenges as far as citizenship goes. We have to make sure that they don't become members of our ohana but homeless. And so things like that will be decided on. The federal government will be then supportive of whatever I ask. So it was good that the president was here. It was good that the First Lady was here. It was good that Jamie got time with the First Lady and they could speak about education, for example, in the schools that gradually will be reopened when they're safe. So many conversations, and I'm grateful he came.
And his last night was the first time Maui County, the update that they provided for the area searched.
Yes.
They differentiated between 100% of the area, including single-story residential properties, to now moving on to multi-story dwellings.
Yes.
As we look to that, how much more of the area actually does need to be searched, and how much time or more time are we looking at?
So I've heard different things. It's at least a week, maybe two. Those buildings are very fragile and they have to use some additional equipment to peel back some of the levels of floors that collapsed. So in order to do it right, that takes a little bit more time. In some cases, they'll have to suspend dogs and firefighting personnel over the area, which is a very delicate and dangerous process. We do expect to see a lot more loss of life. It's going to be tragic. I want to brace everyone for that. And then we will come together and do what we can to rebuild our lives. That probably amounts to about 15% of the total search. That's how we've been kind of viewing it. But yes, and I've been 5 times now on the ground through the impact zone with different people, with Speaker of the House, Senator, with the President of the United States, and so on. you see all of that space, but you can't really get into the buildings unless you have extreme professional training. So that's where we are. Dogs can still kind of go in. Look, with the 800 plus people missing, some people will be reunited. We will find that, yes, their phones were destroyed, and we're gradually reconnecting them, like we did with that one person who we found after they did DNA, that he was in the hospital and recovering already, and the family was able to reunite with him. Other people will have gone back to the mainland. Other people will be found and have perished. So I want Hawaii to brace ourselves for this. I want us to know that we have to love each other, and we have to also get all the answers. I don't want anyone for 1 second to think that we're not going to investigate this and then do everything we can to improve and prevent this from ever happening again. But this is the process right now to try to get through the rest of this acute phase of the recovery and then move to some of those questions.
We reported earlier this week that FEMA said that they could be running out of disaster assistance money by the end of this month. What are you guys doing now and to try and make sure that recovery continues instead of being delayed?
Well, that's, of course, a federal question because, and I was happy to have time with all of our federal delegation, with Shah, Sorono, Takuda, and Case, all of them compassionately a part of this response. They are fighting with other congressional delegations from red states and blue states to get FEMA fully funded. Because remember, there are natural disasters that have hit many other states, including California recently, Florida. So we're hopeful that politics won't intervene and hold up funding. Again, I have every assurance from the president that we will be able to do what we have to do. Also, we're raising hundreds of millions of dollars now through the private sector and the generosity of everyone that's coming in, whether it's from companies that give $1 million to countries that give $2 million to people that give $5. That money will be available to either help the survivors or if, God forbid, we got somehow, and I can't imagine this will happen, hamstrung by politics in Washington, we'll be able to proceed with our own resources too. I also, as you know, have $1.5 billion of, quote, rainy day funds, which I'm capable of tapping, and I'm in conversations, of course, with the leadership at the House and Senate level to make sure that if we had to do any of that, we don't have to delay. Because people, this is what I know as a physician, people are going to need closure one way or another. That's what people told me yesterday, and they've told me every time I've been in Maui since the catastrophe. And I also know that implicitly that people have to, even if they hear, and I was making calls yesterday to share with some people that their loved one had passed, they have to know that they can move on and begin to go through the grieving process. So we can't allow anything to delay that.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning, Governor Green. I know you've been back and forth to Maui a lot, and you're planning to be back there sometime this week.
Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate you being here.